How's it going, everyone? This episode of the Falconry Chronicles podcast, we're just jumping right into because this is another one of those special episodes that myself and several other falconers felt inspired to contribute to and put together. And after going back and forth so many times trying to figure out when the best time really would be to release this, I really just kind of came to the conclusion that now was as good a time as any, especially after having gotten a chance to see Teddy again recently and also get a chance to hawk with Casey and Paul and Phil and several other of the falconers that kind of helped make this dachshund ongoing series possible, and were some of the main inspiration in helping to try and get this particular episode together as well. Several falconers wanted to come together and voice some of their fond memories, recollections, or just kind of voice what knowing Teddy has meant to them, not just in regards to falconry and dachshunds, but also personally as well. Teddy's been a really good resource to have, not just in regards to falconry and dachshunds, but also for a lot of people, just personally in their lives as well. So Teddy, if you're listening to this, all I can say is sorry if you're embarrassed at the moment or mortified, but we all felt inspired to do this, and we felt that this was something that needed to be done at some point. Whether you feel like it or not, we all feel like you've earned this, and we all just want to say some nice things and let the community and other people know just how impactful you've been. And so, all that being said, everyone that's going to contribute here, there's so many. I don't want to go through names. I mean, there's so many. I'm going to put them all in the show notes so you all can reference that and go from there. I'll be here forever if I go through names and introduce everybody individually here. So anyway, without any more delay, I'm going to go ahead and just start things off here. Teddy, we all love you. Everyone, we really hope you enjoy hearing this episode that is a tribute to Teddy Moritz. Here we go.
Teddy was always a mentor and a role model, and she's been one of the best mentors I've never actually met Teddy. She's had dogs out of my dog. We've talked through email for years and text message and phone call, and I actually would like to get out either this spring or next spring, I guess this coming spring or the following spring, and I'd love to go dig foxes and bring my terriers out there and hunt with Teddy. My influence of Teddy came from reading NAFX boards and old hound magazines when I was getting into falconry. I didn't have a way to make pheasant or quail hawking happen, and even though it was my end goal, the falconry that was in front of me when I moved to Missouri to become a falconer out of the Army was squirrel hawking or rabbit hawking. I mean, and the tensions between rabbit hawkers in St. Louis at the time they were damn near getting in fist fights over the same fields, and that to me was silly. And I didn't mind catching. Don't get me wrong, I wanted to catch rabbits, but I learned that the best dog, or I thought at the time the best dog would have been a dachshund. For everyone around me had beagles and bigger terriers, so I was like, well, I'd be the only one in the area with a little dachshund, and I'd be an asset to everybody's falconry, not just my own. So I got a dachshund out of Teddy's old lines, out of a breeder in Montana, and that was Zoid. And so Teddy and I always stayed in touch over the years about Zoid and his training. And then when I got Zoid's brother and I got Wing, and I had raised litters out of Zoid, I mean, we always exchanged ideas, and I always looked to her for input on that. But what's funny is I didn't really know Teddy's impact until years later, even after I got out of dachshunds, and when I started getting more and more into terriers and talking to some of the best terrier people in the United States. And all they could say was like, yo, Teddy's a legend. There's no woman in that age bracket more lethal than Teddy Moritz. Like, that's cool. And that's cool. Teddy left her mark, not just on Falconry, she left her mark on dachshunds. She left her mark on terrier men that knew Teddy or knew who Teddy was. And then even in the lurcher world, people know Teddy because Teddy had, I guess she had a really nice lurcher back in the day. So yeah, I would love to take one of my smaller terriers out there to dig with Teddy and actually finally meet her. It just never worked out. She'd be at trials that I didn't go to, and then I'd be at trials that she didn't go to. And even though I grew up in New England, but then when I was a junior in high school, I moved to New Jersey. Like I didn't know. I never crossed paths with her then, even though at that time we lived in the same state. So I've never actually gotten to see falconry in New Jersey either. So I would love to go see that too. But and finally meet like Casey Everett. I mean, the reason why we're talking right now. So it's cool to finally see something being made to pay homage to Teddy that'll be long lasting. Those magazines like Full Cry that Teddy's in, they will disappear. They're a physical media, whereas the internet is much more forever these days. So like this podcast and these episodes paying homage to Teddy are, to me, are really cool. Same thing with the ones that paid homage to Harry and getting Harry on there. That's cool of you guys to do, and that I'm glad to even have a fingerprint in that, you know. So I would love to touch base after I go and actually finally get to dig some holes with Teddy and catch some groundhogs and some foxes.
So Teddy Moritz. Teddy Moritz is a legend in the sport of falconry and in the dog world. She, just some personal experience with Teddy. She is my sponsor's sponsor. So she taught them everything they know about falconry, everything they know about running dogs, using scent and the reaction of scent on the ground to moisture, humidity, dryness, all these different things that are being passed down generation to generation. A lot of it stemmed from Teddy Moritz, and she pioneered falconry for a lot of women. She was one of the first women to take up this sport. She has shared with me some personal trials and tribulations on getting involved and not being taken seriously and having to overcome adversity. And she's just an amazing woman. She is the sweetest, kindest woman, but she will stretch a rabbit in 2 seconds right in front of your eyes. She is the coolest person ever. She has ran so many different types of dogs. She has fine-tuned what dogs she likes and the way that she runs them. Running long-haired miniature dachshunds is not an accident. It's not something that she stumbled into that now is like what she pushes. She has ran the wire hairs, Jack Russells, Yog. She has ran everything. And she has come to the conclusion that the long-haired miniature dachshund is the best dog for what we are trying to do in our area. I mean, I've heard stories when she used to work for Fish and Wildlife of jumping out of helicopters into swamps to help set the pole for the osprey nests as it's being set by a helicopter on a crane, moving it into position, and she's in the water trying to make sure it goes in where it's supposed to go. I don't know if any of that's true or not, but that's what I heard. Another great story is she may or may not have allegedly dispatched a deer that was being held by her hounds in someone's backyard while he was drinking coffee on his porch. And her words were, "I'll get out of your hair in 1 minute. Just got to dispatch this deer. Thanks." This is a woman that is, 5'0", so inconspicuous and sweet and kind, but is as hardcore as any of these big, game hawker guys that are out there. And I had the pleasure of being part of her legacy by being, apprenticed by her apprentices. And they were very adamant about keeping the level of quality that she instilled on them, they instilled on me to hold myself to a higher standard. And I may or may not keep myself to that standard, and I will be the first to admit that. but it's always something that I strive to do. And just just a fun story with Teddy. I just remember that I had Abby, my red dog, my red sable dog that's 18 years old. After her, I got this black and tan dog, Ellie, who unfortunately passed away from dying in a hole in the pursuit of game after a rabbit. She dug herself into a crevice that she couldn't turn around and come back out, and the location of the burrow, it was illegal for me to dig because it was a Jewish cemetery, and normally I would just have dug, but the police got involved and we had to wait a certain amount of time, which cost the dog her life. But that dog was such a driven, gamey dog, and I just remember she was so timid and laid back at first in her training. And at a falconry meet, we were all part of the hunt. We all had our dogs there, and a rabbit went down a hole. The rabbit, we were working the hole with different dogs, and eventually the falconer that was flying his bird, I think they just continued on the hunt, and half, at falconry meets there's a bunch of people, so like half the people went with them and half the people stayed back at the hole, and I just remember it was just this very intimate moment of me, Paul, Phil, and Teddy, and we were all just kind of helping Ellie, my black and tan, just get the confidence to go down the hole, and just kind of easing her in and letting another dog go in and praising her for getting closer to the hole and just encouraging her. And then I think we ended up actually digging out one of the other dogs that had a tracer collar on, and it had the rabbit in a den, and we ended up digging it up, and I just remember Teddy reaching down into the hole and just pulling the rabbit and the dog out by the scruff. And it's just like this little sweet lady, just like so hardcore and so passionate about the sport of falconry and the success of her dogs and her birds. And she is just one of my favorite people in the whole world. And I'm just proud to know her and in some way be part of her legacy as a falconer and her contributions to falconry as a whole in the United States. So just want to say, Teddy, you're an amazing person, and I feel honored to know you.
They say, like, Teddy obviously was my sponsor and probably her first apprentice, and they say that imitation is the best form of flattery, and I think that for me, I would change that a little bit and say emulation is the best form of flattery. When it came to Teddy as my sponsor, it was never, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this, blah, 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 blah. It was more like, as any good leader would do, she was an example for me to emulate, to follow, to be like. When it came to just getting my first red tail, training my first bird, I remember calling Teddy and saying, like, the things that an apprentice would say, Teddy, the bird flew across the yard to my fist, and she would, I would get that passive response, like, okay, good, and something to, just to placate me on the phone, and just to say that, oh, okay. And every day it'd be like, it came 20 yards, it came 30 yards and everything. Okay, good. And then, we continued to progress. And, when I finally started hunting, it was like, okay, good. But there was never any excitement or real praise until, we finally got that first kill, and it took weeks and weeks, and we got that first kill. And then there was that real joy, that real excitement that, like, okay, now you got it, and now you got it. And so the most important thing that my sponsor ever taught me was that this is a hunting sport, and, and not coming from a hunting background, that was, I think, the most important thing that Teddy ever taught us, that this is in fact a hunting sport, and it's not just training a bird and enjoying the time with the bird and doing all that. But that's not the only thing my sponsor taught me. There's a lot of things that she taught me, but I think one of the other most important things that I took from her is I tried to emulate her in the way she was a sponsor to me. I didn't force my will on my apprentices. I didn't force my way of thinking on other people. If anybody knows Teddy at all, she's the most humble person, even with all her accolades and all her success and all her life. She never pushed her opinions or her way of thinking on other people. She was very humble in the way she did things, and her humility is something that I try to emulate in my either daily life and or falconry. A lot of times that when we talk to people or we have conversations with people, we're filled with opinions that we didn't ask for, or that weren't, something that the person wanted or intended. And Teddy never pushed her opinions on me. She never pushed her knowledge on us. She didn't even force us to get a dachshund. We all, me and my brother, were always, trying to pull that information out of her. And I think that was part of her humility and something that we take with us to this day. I think I see that in my brother and me, that we don't try to force our opinions on people and or our way of thinking or our way of doing things, and we still to this day, even having this much success, not anywhere near the success that our sponsor had, but we still take that with us into the sense that we don't try to act like we know it all or think that we know it all. We try to remind us of that humility that Teddy always possessed and continue to, even to this day, with all her knowledge, until to this day when I speak to her. I speak to her on probably a weekly basis, and I'm very fortunate in having Teddy as my sponsor. And I can't say enough good things about her.
Yeah, so I mean I share a lot of those same sentiments, Phil, and but really the things that I think I take from Teddy's the most is that you always had a level of expectation that she commanded on your conduct, on your success, on how you conduct yourself. I was always kept feeling that I needed to prove myself in that way, not in a bad way, but like, hey, you have a certain level of expectation that, she has, and that's what drove me to become a better falconer. So that, and just in general, the way she carries herself and Teddy, and if you hear this, that, there's no one in the world that's like her, right? Especially in northern New Jersey. Growing up in the outdoors, in an area that grew up around her and developed around her, she maintained, her love of the outdoors, and she shared that with, two Jersey guys that had spent little time in the outdoors, right? And opened us, our eyes to a world that we would have never known, right? The way we hunt with dogs, to the people we've met, to the things that the game that we've eaten, the game that we've caught, the people, the places we've been to, all those things were opened up through Teddy, right? And our lives would never be the same. It would never be completely different if we had not met her, and she hasn't shared some of that experience and knowledge with us. So to that, I'm greatly, indebted to her, and thankful for that opportunity. I feel like I have a much richer life because of those experiences that she shares, and it's a good eye-opening thing that I think everybody should think about, is that you share some of your life experiences and knowledge with another person. It'll change that person's life forever, hopefully for the good, and it'll enhance your life as well. So don't be afraid to sponsor a person that it'll hopefully create a great experience for you and that other person.
Yeah, I mean, we're, like I said, like Paul said, we were lucky to have, I'm sure not every sponsor apprentice relationship ends up being, a family member like Teddy is to us. My kids write, to this day, the kids write they're pen pals with Teddy. They send letters to her, and they're, I talk to her probably on a weekly basis, and, she's family and
Been to
that
our
kind of
weddings
thing.
and,
Yeah.
yeah.
My daughter was born on her birthday. I mean, like that, that kind of stuff like that, and so, anyway, so not every sponsor apprentice relationship gets to be that lucky, but we
But
were,
other friendships are, right?
yeah, and other
falconers that you meet.
yeah, absolutely, and a lot of that had to do. We just we were just very lucky to have Teddy in our lives, and and to emulate the type of things that you know, not just in falconry, that in life that you would want to be like. You know, there's, especially in her humility and in her way she deals with people and their positivity about things.
And never scared to share an opinion as well, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
You know,
I mean, you ask her a question, she's going to give you a fair opinion, whether
and, you know, and that
whether
honesty,
it's something that you want to hear or not.
yeah, and that honesty is lacking these days,
Yeah,
especially with social
every time
media
she
and
sees
stuff.
me and I'm about 10 pounds heavier, I'll know. You know, she won't miss that.
If my equipment's at it, you know, not up to par, my dog's nails are a little too long, and you know, teeth are dirty, I'm going to hear it.
She went hawking with us at the last meet, and she didn't have anything good to say about your quality of falconry. Just kidding.
She might be right, but that's all right.
No, but
We
she's
just
I'm saying
take it.
she, you know, if she sees something, she'll say it, and that's what you want, you know, kind of like brutal honesty, but not in a malicious way.
Yep.
So thank you, Teddy.
Thank you for being the 1 in a million in our county that was a falconer, and we were lucky enough to meet you, and that's it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
So, as I mentioned earlier, my first dachshund came to me by way of a recommendation from Teddy Moritz. And after that point, we became fast friends, and we met at many a field trial, and we hawked many a time. And I remember one instance when the first time Teddy and I ever went out hunting, after I had purchased my first dog from the breeder that she recommended, we went out to kind of a tough spot, and my red tail really flew well. And it's funny because as falconers, we know that, you know, your bird can do spectacular 10 times in a row, and you take somebody out with you, and it just, you know, it's just a bad day. But my bird did really well, caught 2 rabbits right over the dog, and I got a phone call from the breeder 2 or 3 days later to say that Teddy had called him as soon as she got home and was just raving about, you know, me as a falconer and the performance of the dog and the bird. And she just, it was very, very nice to hear. And she's been, because we became friends, she's been quite an influence. I mean, she's been like family for 20 plus years. You know, everybody I've ever introduced her to, she's been nothing but incredibly gracious and welcoming. And she's just full of wisdom and advice. And she doesn't throw it around freely, but if you ask a question, you'll get the answer, and it'll be a good one. She's incredibly giving and warm and welcoming. And like I said, a lifetime of knowledge in both falconry and dachshunds. So I can't recommend anyone higher than her if you are interested in getting involved in dachshund. And if you have a falconry question, she's going to answer that as well. But a tremendous person. And if you're out there, Teddy, and you hear this, I love you like family. You know that. And I'll be seeing you again soon. And thanks for those chain link panels. See ya.
Okay, my favorite memory of Teddy Moritz was, I would probably say about 10 or 15 years ago as an adult. I was talking, just BSing with Phil and Paul and all the guys, just general guy talk. And I guess I must have used some curse words, and it was considered inappropriate at that time. But once again, me being a street guy and not thinking about it, I didn't think anything of it. So as soon as after we were done, I remember Teddy came over, she grabbed me and kind of yanked me aside. She goes, you know, that was inappropriate for you to use those words in front of a lady. And once again, as an adult, I was like, it blew my mind. You know, like I said, I never even thought of anything that being inappropriate using curse word. But that was the first time as an adult, someone actually kind of verbally spanked me for using bad words. And it was definitely a shock, culture shock for me, because once again, as a grown man, as a law enforcement officer, I kind of got used to just doing what, you know, saying whatever I want and not even thinking about it. And I had this, you know, lady just kind of came by and just reared back and just, you know, for lack of a better word, backslapped me. So it was a unique experience for me. So to this day, I've learned to think about what I say before I say it, especially in front of a lady. because of that experience. So that was one of my fondest memory of Teddy. And in addition to the fact that she taught me that, you know, a dog, especially dachshunds, are not just a lap dog. They have a purpose, and if you want to keep the dog happy, you got to put them out in the field and let them do what they were meant to do. And I couldn't understand that. And then, you know, I remember when she said, yeah, we'll just get you another dog. Don't worry about it. Just make sure you go out hawking. If you lose your dog, you know, if it dies doing what it's meant to do, let it be. But we'll get you another dog no matter what. She's completely passionate, and, you know, I can't think of someone who's more passionate and, you know, dedicated to this form of hawking. That is something that I think most people don't realize, that, you know, she's completely professional and very businesslike in the way she does hawking with the dog. She's very, trying to think of my word carefully here. You know, she's been a mentor to me in the sense that I knew nothing about dogs. I didn't know that, you know, give them an egg, you know, once a week, get their coat furry, get them, you know, she has always been a guidance for me on how to do what to expect from a dog. So you know, one of her best saying that I always remembered was, you know, when you go out with your dog, put some gravel, put some rocks in your pockets. I was like, huh? Didn't understand that. And then as you know, my dog would run out a little too far, and then all of a sudden she's like, just throw your rocks at them. This way you let them know that they can reach out. You can still reach out and touch them every now and then. Don't hit them, but just get them out close to them. It's like, oh, okay. And that was poor man's e-collar. So I used to carry a bag of gravels. As the dog would run out, because my dog would run out, I was like, hey, whoa. And they would just look at me and go, nah, you can't reach me. And then I remember Teddy always says, grab a little pebble, you know, reach out and touch them. And then they would go, oh, yeah, this guy can still reach out and touch me. Then they would go, oh, yeah, okay, I want to do exactly what he says, rather than running off chasing something else. So that is her, you know, that will be my memory of Teddy, where she's, you know, I can't think of someone who's more dedicated to dachshund and to falconry than her.
So meeting Teddy Moritz has been one of the most impactful things in my entire falconry career. I met her in Maryland, and she got to watch me fly my Harris hawk, my first Harris hawk that I had, first year Harris hawk, and getting to walk and talk with her and be in the field hawking. She is the reason that I have dachshunds. She is the reason that I have such a passion for this breed. Teddy has given me so much encouragement when I needed it most, so much information and just wisdom upon wisdom in my life that I will forever be grateful for. She is so impactful in my life, just to know that I have somebody as wild as Teddy Moritz to call at any point and run something by. You know, there's been times I'd call her about the dogs and the hawks, you know, in the field, and ask her, you know, what, am I just being impatient, you know, whatnot? She says, honey, just relax. She says, you're overthinking, you know, and she always has something. Teddy always talks in a story too, and I love that. I would sit and listen to that woman talk for hours and hours a day. There's always something that Teddy has to give you that is sage advice. And yeah, I appreciate that so much. She's been such an instrumental person in my life. Just even on a personal level, you know, I met Teddy and I was like, that's what I want to be when I grow up. You know, I met her, I was 25, and I was like, that I want to be just like Teddy. She's just a Wonder Woman. She's every story, every word that comes out of her mouth is something that everybody should listen to. So Teddy, whenever you hear this, I want to thank you for being there for me, for getting me my first dachshund, and yeah, giving me the blessing of having Quick, and makes me want to tear up because I love you. I appreciate you so much. I'm so glad that you have been a part of my life these last couple of years. So thank you.
So I think there's really nobody that's more influential than Teddy when it comes to dachshunds. And I've even seen the way she's moving it with other people and bring them out, with new breeders, and the way she treats them and the way she's teaching people. I don't think there's anybody more dedicated. From what I've seen, actually, the stories I've heard are just unbelievable from everybody, one better than the next. She's the real deal.
All right, I'd like to give a thanks to Teddy. Without her doing like all the selective breeding over the decades that she's done, we wouldn't have the dogs we have today. We would still be stuck with these like little short-legged things that would suck going through the terrain we do. And she's the one who bred them all to have these nice slim bodies and slim heads to do hole work, and nice long legs to go over the briars and through the snow and over the rougher terrain that we have around here in the Northeast. For better, it was like she just bred a better dog. And I met her on her 75th, and Casey said she was going to keep up, and I would probably have a hard time keeping up with her. And sure enough, he was right. I look behind me, expecting to see her behind me, and she was in front of me. She's quick. She's sharp, and I took her out ratting in DC with me with a dachshund that's like her great grand dog or something like that. You trace his lineage all the way back to her. And she loved it. We took her, and she'd watch me throw my dog in the bottom of dumpsters or in trash cans. She was just loving it. She loved it so much. She was grinning ear to ear, watching my dog catch these rats. And I guess she liked it so much to where she even asked me to interview me to go on a dachshund magazine. And that was an honor, like having this person who's this wealth of knowledge asking somebody who's new to owning a dachshund to come on out and be interviewed for this magazine. Yeah, I just want to say thanks to Teddy.
So one of my fondest memories of Teddy Moritz was when we were hawking together, and I had, this was after, Thorn had gotten through tetanus, before he really started breeding. And she wanted to see the dog again to see how he hunted, because she hadn't seen him since his hospital scare. And, I was pretty nervous, showing him to her because of, how was she going to, there's a lot of anxiety and intensity because this is, the godmother of dachshunds. And so we go out hawking with one of my red tails, and the dog is just doing great. I think, we flushed, 7 or 8 rabbits, and the hawk caught the only squirrel. And so we're out there, and I think the hawk is just in a tree, and we're not even worried about the hawk anymore. We're just watching the dogs work. And it was such an enjoyable moment, just being in, hawking with Teddy Moritz one-on-one, watching her dachshunds work alongside mine. And one of the funny stories was when she told me, she had brought her younger kid hawking with her, and she had set him down because the dogs got into a hole. And she was, she was looking at the dogs and, trying to decide if she would walk back to the car to get the shovel. And she didn't realize she set her kid down on an anthill. So then she starts, patting the back of the kid off, and then she goes back to the truck, digs out the dog. But it was just, long story short, it was just one of the, the fondest memory, because that was just, just like, patting the kid off. And, there's just so many fond memories with Teddy. And she has, been kind of a role model as, running dogs and, just being a good person. And so she's taught me so much about running dachshunds, and it was kind of an honor to get both my dachshunds from her. And then just to have my first dachshunds go back and having the breeder rebreed the dog she sold to me, especially that it was from Teddy. So that meant a lot to me.
Yeah, so Teddy, she's just I'm so grateful for Teddy and what she did with the dachshunds, and you know how it's affected my falconry. I don't know Teddy very well, but I've talked to her on the phone in the past, and she's been really helpful and insightful and inspirational, really. I look up to her as a falconer, just seeing how hard she hunts and what she's done with these little dogs. It's changed my falconry life, and really just my life outside of falconry forever, because these dogs are such great pets and everything. So I'm really thankful and inspired by OG Teddy over here.
Words fail me, and I'm kind of mortified to even try and put into words how much Teddy means to me. But I'm going to take a stab at it here. So I'll never forget meeting her for the first time when I got my first dachshund. And ever since then, Teddy has been a nearly daily texter with me, for lack of better words. I remember how excited I was when she finally got a smartphone and could send videos and pictures. She had the old school flip phone for a long time, and just in recent years has gotten the smartphone. So she's of course given us these amazing dogs that we all love so much, that have brought us all here and brought us all together. Without her, we would have dogs that are only known for being miserable little couch potatoes, but thanks to her, they're able to serve their true purpose for at least 4 or 5 months out of the year. She's mentored me through field trials, earth dog trials, through hunting, through being a person, being a dad, just life in general. She's just been a huge inspiration and a great support to me. Through Teddy, I've met a lot of great friends and people that, just play a huge role in my life today. My new friend, John, that I'm speaking to, Casey, Harrison, she introduced me to my favorite author of all time, Brian Plummer. She mentored me through new pastimes with the dachshunds, like ratting. I've never dug groundhogs. It doesn't sound like much fun to me, but I think I need to try it with Teddy someday soon. She's just been such an amazing lady, and words truly fail me to convey how important she has been to me in the past several years. And this has been mortifying for me to even try and do, but I doubt it'll be as mortifying for me as it will be for Teddy to hear. But I will say this, Teddy, hopefully you made it this far. You need to write the book, okay? Write the book. We all want it. So get on it.
Well, my first experience with Teddy was up in Pennsylvania at a field dog trial. I can't remember if she was judging or she was the field marshal, and she was halfway across the field. So Brannigan was walking across the field, and Teddy yelled, "What are you doing?" And I yelled, "Shutting the truck up." But Teddy come unglued because she thought I told her to shut the F up. I'm pretty sure she took 10 or 15 steps in my direction until I screamed what I yelled so she could hear me. So that was the very first experience. But after that, we hung out at that field trial, and I mean, it's just been a joke and stuff about that. I've always kept in contact with her because, I mean, she's full of knowledge, especially when it comes to Harris Hawks and dachshunds. I mean, I've had to use her brain a few times on issues I've run into. And we're always back and forth trading stories and pictures and videos and stuff of things that we catch with the birds and whatnot. I mean, of course, she's always got epic stories and hunting things going on more than I do, but if you have a good relationship with her, you're definitely one she can call to pick her knowledge out of her, either about birds or dogs. It's wonderful to have that capability to contact her. I mean, anybody that talked about dachshunds always talked about her, and then I got to meet her. Definitely a good friend to have. Yeah, I mean, it'd be awesome, Teddy, to be able to fly with you one day and run our dogs, and that would be amazing to be able to do. And thank you for all the help and information and your opinion on stuff. Instead of telling people what they have to do, you give them what your opinion and what works the best. So thank you.
Well, there's a lot of things you could say about her, right? I think you've covered a lot of it over the course of several episodes. I mean, I think anybody who's had a dachshund, it's hard to get around an episode on dachshunds without mentioning Teddy. I guess I said when I was on the show, the one thing that stands out about Teddy is whether you've known her for 20 years or 20 minutes, when you leave, you feel like you've made a friend and that she's invested in your falconry and she wants to see you doing well with your dogs. I know she probably gets a lot of calls and a lot of messages daily asking questions and sharing experiences that people have had with their dogs. And I know she's always been gracious to us, and I'm sure she is to everybody else in answering those questions. So she's very open with information, which is, one of her best qualities. I guess the thing that stands out the most about her, she's a great role model for women falconers. In my opinion, she's up there with, people like Lauren McCoe or even like Emma Ford or Jemima Perry Jones. You don't have a lot of women in the sport, and particularly back when she was getting in, you didn't have. So I think that's great for women to see someone that's successful at it as her and has made such an impact on the sport as she has, for that. I guess the biggest compliment I can pay her, other than, we've always talked about her accolades with dachshunds and the contributions she's made with those, but maybe a lot of people don't know, like even at her age of like late 60s, early 70s, she hunts harder than a lot of men that I know. It's funny because, we have these relationships in falconry, and I call them, seasonal relationships. There's people I talk to and hang out with during the hawking season. And then when the off season, I don't, life gets busy, you have jobs and stuff, and you don't see those guys. And then as soon as falconry season comes around, it's like, okay, what are you doing? Are we hawking? Where's your bird at? What's the weight? All that stuff. And so what's interesting about her is, we've shared a lot of DNA with our dogs over the years. And so just like people like to message her with updates on how their dogs are doing, or they message us with updates on how our dogs are doing. It's been kind of interesting since we sent Kip out to her, because she sends us updates on how he's doing. And what a lot of people probably don't realize is even at her age, she is a hunter. We'll start messaging her in October, like, hey, we got our first rabbit of the season, or we doubled up on this day or that day. But she'll start messaging us way back in June, July. As soon as the weather's warm, she's sending us videos and messages of, Kip going down holes and hunting woodchucks. And she's out there digging up woodchucks at 70 years old. And I mean, these are like weekly updates, and I get kind of embarrassed, like, man, we've got to step up our game. She's been sending us this stuff all, for the last month, every week, couple times a week. And we haven't been sending her very much. We better get our stuff going and start sending her some stuff back. Otherwise, she might quit messaging us. We're not up to her standard, So I think that's the biggest compliment I can pay her, just falconer to falconers. At her age, it's incredible how much time she spends in the woods hunting woodchucks, rolls right into rabbit season. And it's fun to hear the adventures that she has. A lot of people might not be privy to that. We just happen to be, because we shared some DNA with her, and I think she likes to talk about, what she got from us. And so that's the one thing that stands out about her, is just how much, even at her age, she is killing things and out in the woods every day. You think at a certain age, you can kind of lay back. I've left my mark on things. I've done some good things, made some good contributions. I hope I'm still half as active as she is after 50 or 60, as she is now. So I think that's the biggest compliment I can pay her, aside from all the dachshund stuff, aside from, all the contributions she's made to falconer, just falconer to falconer. She's much like her dogs, very tenacious, very driven to hunt. And, she's out there getting it done day in and day out, which is surprising, for her age. She's half my size and twice my age, and she catches a lot more game than I do. So I wish I had just some, just perfect little quote, but I guess the only thing I can say is it's a friendship that we've been very grateful for, as I'm sure it is for a lot of falconers. Like I said, no matter how long you've known her, she really seems to make an impact on a lot of people's life and a lot of people's falconry. And I hope to see her mark in history, go down with the likes of like Emma Ford or Jemima Perry Jones or, some of these other women that are, Jennifer Colson's or Lauren McCoe's, people that are making their mark on falconry. I think she's got a legacy that's worthy of high praise and high status in the falconry community. And she's done a lot in her life to be proud of. And it's a friendship that we've been very grateful for over the years.
Just a little bit of background. My name's Bill Bowler. I, with a few people here in Northern Indiana, we took I believe the very first federal falconry test that was let out in late 70s. We were all grandfathered in as master falconers. I had been doing it for a few years, and with a little bit of success with red tails and stuff. My buddy Rich Hoof and I did that fluid cast of red tails and beagles. If you got a good hawk will make a rabbit hide. You know what I mean? He'll go somewhere. He cannot stay out in the open with a good hawk. So you're up against it. Where did he go? The beagle will tell you where he went, and then you get to like a woodchuck hole. That's no good. Beagle's great to that point. Everything is great to that point. But you need something beyond there. And some places, where it was legal, some people, I've heard that some people would use a ferret, and with good results. But some places that's illegal. And I saw an article on Hawk Chalk that from this woman, I didn't even know it was a woman, to tell you the truth, Teddy Moritz at the time. And I don't think I was the only one to make that mistake. So I wrote her a letter. And she sent me some photographs, and we conversed. And I'm not exactly sure how exactly she met Chuck Sprung out in Kansas, Bonner Springs, Kansas. Chuck Sprung, you probably heard that name. He was the long hair guy. And when I contacted her, she was just on the tail end of her wire episode, and she was transitioning into long hairs. So I got these long hairs, and then just changed the world. First time I saw that dog go into a hiding place and flush out a rabbit, it made all the difference in the world. So Teddy turned me on to all of this by getting these little dogs. And then I realized that she's a rare falconer. Never mind the dog part. She hawks like we all want to hawk. If we were all rich and didn't have to work, you could hawk like that. But she hawks every day, hard hawking. Something to shoot for in your life, to be like that. Really, in every way. She's a moral woman in an immoral world. Of course, she's a very gentle woman in a coarse world. She's a little light of sunshine. She's always pushed the dachshunds without making you feel like a goofball if you didn't buy into them. It's kind of like, you'll see the light. You'll see, like I think Churchill said about the Americans, they do the right thing after they've tried everything else. That's about the way with falconers and dogs, So we started breeding dachshunds, and just want to say, Teddy, you've enriched every life that you've touched, especially the true falconers are out there hunting hard and stuff. They're the harder hunters they were, the more they appreciated you. But you are kind to everyone. I don't talk to you as much as I used to, but you are kind to everyone. And whenever your name's mentioned, it's like Saint Teddy. So that's all I've got to say. Bye-bye, dear.
All right, Teddy. Well, I hope that you've made it through all this, and you're still going to speak to me after this episode is over with. I know for me, I would feel out of place if I didn't say a couple of things before I end this episode. And, I'm not going to let myself off the hook either here. But I just want you to know that the thing that I've appreciated the most about you when I first met you was, in my line of work and what I do for a living and all the other aspects of different things that I do outside of my career as well. I meet so many people, and over the 19 years that I've been doing what I've been doing as a profession, and then also being, someone that wears so many different hats in a lot of different things, I really value people who are real and are very straightforward and blunt and just honest. And I've really learned over the years, or tried my best to learn, how to take criticism and how to handle any kind of critiques or feedback or whatever in every aspect of what I do, whether it be my career, my hobbies, or whatever the case is. And I was really appreciative whenever I was talking to you. I could tell that what you were telling me, you didn't have to say whether it was going to be positive or negative or whatever. You didn't have to say anything. And, you didn't have to give me the feedback that you gave me. And, you didn't really, have to give me the time of day at all. And I was appreciative of the fact that you were so willing and open to take time to walk around with me and get a chance to know me some, and, give me whatever critiques, which, fortunately, did happen to be positive about, my dogs and just different aspects of things. So I've come to really value people in my life who are real and genuine, and above all else, I really value those qualities in people that I call friends, especially close friends, and I'm happy to have been able to call you a friend and get to know you and stay in semi-regular contact with you. It's always fun exchanging texts and checking in, seeing how things are with you, and it's always nice seeing texts from you as well, and just staying in touch, and I was happy to get a chance to see you again, even if it was just for a short amount of time at the New Jersey meet, and catch up in person again. And like I said, it's always a valued experience anytime I get a chance to see you in person, reconnect, and just talk shop and talk life. So I know that there's a lot of people that have probably told you either in passing, and obviously for the other relationships that you had that have been a lot more involved, and that you've made an impact on them, and they appreciate you and everything. But I'm definitely another one of those people that really have greatly valued the time that I've had a chance to talk and spend with you. So anyway, before I start getting too emotional and stuff here, I want to go ahead and end by referencing a particular text message conversation that we had, and I hope that you don't mind that I'm sharing this, but I think that it's kind of another one of those things that people would benefit from hearing. So I'm going to share this, and hopefully you don't mind, but it was a text conversation. I actually had to scroll way back and go all the way back to like last July to find this. But you referenced, whenever we did our podcast episode, that I had asked you whether or not you were proud of the dogs that you produced, and you responded back basically that you kind of hesitated to use the word pride, but you quoted a hymn set to Beethoven's Ode to Joy, one line of which that read, "Share thy joy and spend it freely." And I remember reading this text message and thinking, man, I'm going to have to reference this whenever I say my piece during Teddy's tribute episode. And I think that people benefit from hearing this, because it really is in the spirit of not only what you have tried to spread in your dachshund and falconry practice, but you also quoted a poem by, I believe it was Catherine King Johnson, and you had mentioned that her grandson works on a farm that you hunt, and told you about these poems, and you shared the last 3 lines of this poem that she wrote called Compensation, and I want to reference that real quick. And I know why you shared these 3 lines with me, because it was the perfect summation and why you have done what you've done in helping share your knowledge, and not just dachshunds and falconry, but life in general with people, and why you act the way you act and you are the way that you are. And, I think that this is a cool thing to share with people, and it's a big reason why I respect you as much as I do. And I'll just say, we're into this sentiment here by saying, or quoting this, I should say, these last few lines, and which read, "And thus it is, my brothers, we will find it so, you and I, the more we share our joys with others, the more they multiply." And, you've shared in multitudes with others, and, we'll always really be appreciative of that. So thank you again, Teddy, and until next time.